Good morning. My name is Michelle Lavani. I am officially the Bee Hippie and Butterfly Gypsy. My name was given to me by a client. Just to tell you a little bit about myself and why I received that nickname that is now turned into a new venture for me, is because I am a professional artist. I've been an artist, well, my entire life, but professionally I've been selling my artwork for almost 40, probably over 40 years now. Started even as a kid, and teachers would pay me to do their billboards and stuff like that in classrooms, so I always knew that's what I was going to be. Anyway, through the years I've painted a lot of murals, commercial and residential murals. I have done both interior and exterior murals. I've also had a great love for doing portraiture. Particularly, I kind of got like pigeonholed, well, not pigeonholed because I love it, that makes it sound like you're forced, but there was a lot of requests for pet portraits from me through the years. So I have literally done thousands. I've been contracted by national companies to do pet portraits for them, and I ship all over, primarily the US and Canada, but I have shipped outside of the country as well. It's just a little bit more complicated when you're doing things like that, as we all know. Anyway, don't here. And so I've done a lot of festivals that are geared more towards pet portraits and things like that. I've also done corporate paint party events and private paint party events, large ones as well as personal small ones and stuff like that. So I'm kind of used to, you know, being, one friend called me not just an artist, but a performing artist. So I do enjoy interacting with people even while I'm painting. I love painting in front of people, doing live painting. So, you know, stop by over at the Bee Hippie at my table today, this afternoon. I'm going to be painting my butterfly earrings, which I recycle leather, and I make butterfly earrings and pins, and I hand pick them to look real. I'm going to be painting those live over at my table today. But this morning, we're going to talk about bee hotels and the reason that I became the Bee Hippie. So years ago, I had a client, I say years ago, 16 years ago. He had, his first child was due. He was a dentist here in Charleston. And they wanted me to paint a nursery, which was an African safari all the way around the bedroom. Turned out really, really cute. He became not just a client, but a good friend. I ended up painting murals in his dental office and things like that. And we just became real good buddies. About 7 or 8 years ago, he calls me up and he says, Michelle, I've got a new hobby, and I think you might be interested in it. It's beekeeping. And he says, and I would like for you to paint my beehives. And I'm like, whoa, are they active? Am I going to be out there painting beehives while the bees are swarming? And he's like, no, you paint them. And he said, and then I will use them and we'll load them with the bees. But he said, it's actually an art. He says, you need to look into this. It's something they do in Europe and have done for centuries. But they don't so much in the US, more beekeepers just paint them white. But the reason for it is bees and butterflies, and actually hummingbirds, but we're not discussing hummingbirds because they're the enemy of the bee. So we're just, you know, and the butterfly because they'll eat them. I love them, but they have a different place in the garden. Anyway, bees and butterflies, they all see things differently than we do. Like, for instance, they do not see the color red. It's black. So, you know, where we see that as a bright color, they just see it as dark. It's not the same thing. But pollinators are drawn to color, whether it's flowers or whether it's your shirt or whether it's artwork that you have in your garden, which is what I am encouraging people now to do. Have murals in your garden, have other artwork in your garden, things that will attract pollinators, but also make your garden beautiful year-round, whether your flowers are blooming or not. Now, I still continually paint beehives. In fact, Tim was the doctor. He was like, he's the one that gave me the name, the Bee Hippie. He had me painting so many of them that I became fairly well known amongst the beekeeping community. In fact, yesterday morning, just before we started, the president of the South Carolina Beekeepers Association stopped by just to come by and see me. His picture is on my table because he's taken me out to his beehives. I don't have any currently. This is what I do. But I have taken the course and I passed the test, so I'm not an expert, but I love learning. Many of you might already be experts. How many people here have experience with bees, whether it's a beehive or... There we go. See, you guys are the ones that should be teaching this class. So anyway, and I now do the festivals with the Beekeepers Association, and I set up a whole new website devoted to pollinating your garden. I have a blog, and I'm interviewing people who have experience with gardens and would like to be featured on my website. And then I focus on things that beautify your garden, like the bee hotels. It's more than just beautifying your garden. Does anybody know the benefit of bees? Pollination. And what's that do for us?
Food, everything.
Food. Major thing for us to have those little bees. They're awesome little creatures, and when you start studying and learning the intricacies and what they actually do, it's amazing. Now, a honeybee with beekeepers, those are colony bees, so they all work together. You know, you have your queen bee, and you have your worker bees, and you have, you know, your drones and all that kind of stuff that goes along with raising bees, colony bees. And that can be complicated for some people. They may not want to handle honeybees. They may not want that work because it is a lot of work. But there's another kind of bee, and that's called a solitary bee. Now, a solitary bee, they benefit from bee hotels. It provides them protection from the weather, but it also provides them protection from the things that want to eat them, the things that want to eat their little babies. And so that's what we're going to be doing today. And what makes mine different from what you might have seen, has anybody ever seen a bee hotel before? Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. Usually, when you look at a bee hotel in the store, you have tubes in it, and they're glued in place, correct? That's probably what you've seen. If you turn them upside down, they're not gonna fall out, right? Okay. Do you know what those tubes are usually made out of? What have you noticed?
Straws.
Straws?
Mine are corrugated cardboard.
Those are good.
Yeah.
Cardboard's good. The only thing is it's hard in the moisture, you know, to keep them good. But the cardboard is a good one to do. Most of what you see though in the store, especially when they're glued in, are made of bamboo. Have you ever tried to break a bamboo stick? It's impossible. Okay. So one of the things that you should know about those ones, and I had to learn this because I was doing it before too, is keeping those kind of bee hotels. I even made those kind of bee hotels in the beginning before I was knowledgeable about it, is that those are death traps. And the reason why is first of all, the bee will only use that tube one season. So that very tube only gets used one season. So if you have a bee hotel and you put it out for the spring for her to put her babies in, and then if they make it and launch the next spring, they hibernate and everything else, if they launch the next spring, you're likely that they might have contracted mites or other types of diseases, because bees are prone to certain diseases. So if you just leave it out there, all you're doing is creating more problems for the bees to be able to come into your yard, because they're going to get diseases and mites, because that's what that is. It's like, imagine it's like a contagion house now for using it every year. So what you really want is you want a hotel that you'll be able to clean out, harvest and clean out. And so I used, in my research, cardboard ones are great. These ones though are water safe because they are made of a reed that's called phragmite, and they're easily broken. So you can harvest the cocoons out of it. So we're gonna talk about that here before we begin painting. We'll talk about that. Anyway, the size of them is the specific size that you will need for a mason bee. If you go larger, then you're not gonna have mason bees. You're gonna have, you might have a mason bee, but then it's gonna get attacked by something else that's larger that can get in there. So you want something that's the right size. Also the right length. You don't want short ones, because she's not gonna wanna put her babies in there. She wants to get as many as she can get in. So somewhere between 5.5 to 7 inches is preferable. And then when you have your hotel, you wanna be able to put them in and pull them out. But you also wanna make sure that there's a roof line that's covering and protecting it against the elements. Also, swinging ones are not the greatest either, because, I mean, imagine if you lived in a swinging house, you know? The air blows and it blows you around. So something that's more stable that can be nailed to a post or to a tree is better. And you can remove these ones as well. So I'm briefly just gonna tell you what happens inside the tube. So the mason bee, she actually, and do not take this as my artistic skills, this is just, I'm terrible at Pictionary because I'm too under pressure. So imagine this is the tube that you see. What she does is she goes and she packs the end with mud and clay, makes it real secure on the back end. Then she lays her little egg against that mud and clay. Then she gives it some food. Then she comes in and she puts some more mud and clay. And incidentally, this one back here is generally a female. The first one that she lays is a female. Bees can choose. They get a choice. They can choose whether they're making a female or a male. So then she has another one here, then she puts the food, then she muds it, and she puts the egg, and food, and so on and so forth. And you can see she can get a lot of babies in there. Now what happens is this part takes place in the spring, and then while over the summer, this little baby is eating the food and growing, and then it's also spinning a cocoon. So now, just like a butterfly, it's in this little hard cocoon like a bean. And it will hibernate in that cocoon over the winter. And then in the spring, first one breaks out, second one breaks out, third one breaks out. These that are in the front are generally males. They're waiting for this one, or this first one, to come out, the female. They are generally waiting outside the area, and when she comes out, then they can mate and start the whole process all over again. But this tube's not gonna get used again. So you can see how if you have a bee hotel that's stationary right there, it's gonna get, you know, it's pointless to have it for seasons at a time, unless you can break all those sticks out of there and actually harvest those cocoons. Now when I say harvest, what I mean by that is around September, you can actually pull all of these little tubes out, and then you want to break them open and you want to harvest those little cocoons. You can clean them off, put them in a little water, clean them off. They're water protected now because they're a hard cocoon. You can store them in a little container, perhaps. Some people put them in their refrigerator, but if you have like a dry place like your garage, you can keep them in there through the winter. And in the spring, if you get a little pudding box, you can put all those little mason bee cocoons in a pudding box and put it in your garden and release them. You can even time it a little bit, so if you only want to put out a few at a time, and you can release them to your garden in the spring. It starts the whole process over. And it's such an interesting way to do for pollinating your garden, that there are companies that's all they do is harvest mason bees, and they will send you the cocoons so that you can spread them into your garden, so you can release them into your garden. So people that have like major businesses, a lot of them will have bee hotels that they manage those bees. So it's a lot more than just being pretty. So, any questions about bee hotels and mason? Yes, ma'am.
Do mason bees sting?
So that's really good question. There are aggressive bees and there are non-aggressive bees. Mason bees are non-aggressive. Now, if you were to squeeze them, they would sting you.
Oh,
That's true. That's just their defensive mechanism. But they are not going to attack you. They're not like a yellow jacket. Yellow jackets can be vicious. So different things. Yes, ma'am.
Can the filled tubes stay, instead of taking them out in September and finding the
Yeah, could you
cocoons,
release them now?
can they withstand winter where they are? And then if you just had 2 of those, you can leave one there and have the other one refilled for spring.
This is true, that's a good idea, actually, yes, you can keep them that way. The main reason for harvesting them is to make sure that there wasn't anything like mites or something like that might have gotten in there at some point in time, just to keep it all clean. So that's the main reason for doing that, but if you're using the correct size, you should be okay. You can actually just store your whole tubes away.
Mhm.
Yes, ma'am.
So in Florida, we do not have mason bees. I raise leaf-cutter bees, which
Yes.
is from the same, they used to be called the alfalfa bee.
Yes, and
But it's
they're
the same
really cool.
process.
Same process.
Yeah, and I've been doing that for 14 years, and I teach it through the state and in junior gardeners.
Oh,
So,
awesome.
yeah, it's
You and I need to
impressive.
talk a little bit more, don't we?
But I find that I tried mason bees when I first started into this with
Yeah.
crownbees.com, and they were not surviving, and it's because we don't have the mud. We don't have that, what you're calling the put at the bottom and in between.
Oh,
So ours are leaves chewed
Right,
and so with saliva,
Yeah.
and that's essentially, and so it's the same process different bee, yeah.
yes, and it will work, it
Yeah.
will work. They're a little tinier.
Little,
as far
very
as-
much
So,
so.
yeah.
Yeah.
And just so everybody knows too, mason bees are not destructive, so they are not the ones that are burrowing holes or destroying your woodwork. They do not do that. They find existing holes. They do not burrow holes. I believe that's carpenter bees that do that. Yeah, so people are like, oh, and they are not yellow. So some people call them mermaid bees because they actually almost look like a little blowfly, and they are black with that iridescent blue-green color. So they're really unique looking. What's the other thing I was gonna tell you? A nickname for them is a bellyflopper, and the reason is they actually do more pollinating than the majority of the other bees do, especially honeybees. So as far as a honeybee is concerned, honeybees have a little sac on their hind legs. I have a sac too, but I don't carry pollen. So they carry pollen on their hinds. But a mason bee and a leafcutter bee, they're belly floppers, and that they just get in there and they get it all over. They're like rolling in the pollen, and they love that. So they're covered in pollen, and then they bring it to all the other plants and pollinate it. So that makes it really good for pollination because they're carrying more of it on the body, and that's why they are actually responsible for a greater number of it. So, let me tell you a little bit about these particular bee hotels. The ones that you have sitting in front of you, I have a contract with a gentleman who makes these for me. And I built all of these, so I was sitting there and I was doing it. They're really not complicated to build, but when you're building over 50, it kind of takes a lot of time. But this is what, if you ever order one from me, they will be like this. I can actually have another logo put on it for you. So like if you wanted to purchase for, if you have like a farm or something like that that has a logo and you want to purchase this to have in your store, I can do that for you as well. You will also receive with just come up here and get them from me, or come by my table, whichever. So this little end cap right here, you can actually put it on there for a little extra protection if you feel that that there are like wasps or something like that that's hanging out there.
Spiders?
Or spiders. I have to think it over there. I don't know. My maiden name's Webb, so I can do just about anything. But you can put that on the end, and you can screw that into the end of that too. So that is all. It will come with your thing.
And how do the bees get into all the different holes?
Oh, there's space. There's enough space. there.
There's enough space. Okay.
There's enough space. So once they go in, they can get in because there's about an inch. Yeah.
Will birds and squirrels get in?
That's what that thing would help you, because birds and squirrels. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the other thing about these being small, and even though you can break them, it's not likely that they're going to be eaten whole like this, unless you have like a raccoon. I don't know. You know, sometimes raccoons do like things like that. Bears, if you live in a community that has bears, they like that. But they're more prone to, or not prone, but they're more likely to like go for the honey, and bees don't produce honey. All right, as far as the protection, so these come there as you see them right there. We're gonna talk a little bit about the paint that we're gonna be using today, because you want something that's gonna protect it. Now this is not gonna last for years, but if you do take care of it, bring it back in seasonally, it will last you a lot longer. So painting it with a good quality paint, not a craft paint, is suggested. Being an artist and painting murals, I use a particular paint, and this is what you're going to be using today. It is a mural paint that is specific for exterior as well as interior. And so it is light fast, it's not going to fade. And I've always believed in using the right product, the right tools. And so, you know, using something like this is good. And I can always send you with more if you need some more. I can even include with these paint strips with the little paint pots and, you know, put different colors in that for you. So if you get one that's plain like this, if you want to order one to put together or give one as a gift or something like that, I can put that in there as well. Today, you'll be able to paint however you want. This is an example of mine. I can help you with painting this style. I just decided to paint a sky on the top and some flowers and a grass line on the bottom. It went really well with the theme. But if you want to do patterns, sometimes I do a tie-dye look. You can do, you know, polka dot, whatever you want. But just think about colors. A bee's favorite color is actually purple. So, mine too. I'm like, yeah, we have a lot in common. They also, of course, love yellow. They love blue and green. But pinks, you know, but not red. Red is not. But I did bring it in case there are those who want those colors. So, what we're going to do right now, you see that there's brushes on the table. You can take whichever ones work for you for that particular time. Once you paint it however you want, even if you don't want to cover the entire surface, I'll be sending you with a finishing clear paint that is water soluble. It is exterior approved and is made by the same mural company. And you can take that and finish it back of your room or wherever at home or whatever you want. But I'll put that in a little cup for you, a sealed cup, and then you guys can coat it to protect it. So that's what I would suggest. Even if you leave it bare,
How
make
long
sure
does
you
it
protect
take
it.
the paint that we're gonna put on today to dry?
Really fast.
Okay.
It's water soluble and it's very rich and saturated in color, so you don't have to use that much. In fact, you can even give it a kind of a washed effect, almost like watercolor, a little bit more water to it, and it'll still give you that color. And the most important thing is sealing it, and that's the clear that I'm gonna be getting. Okay? So I'm gonna go around to the tables and I'm gonna pour some paint in the middle. I also have some cups, so if there's some particular color that you want, you know, I can give it to you in a cup, so what did I do with?
So do you take your bee houses down seasonally? Do you take them down?
I would suggest that because of the weathering. You know, I mean, it's not really
So
serving a
you should leave
purpose.
them up when? What is the season you should?
Early
leave them
spring.
up? Leave them
Early
up
spring.
spring to,
Spring to September.
and then take them down.
Yep. Okay, so I'm gonna come around with colors. I'm gonna start at this table here. Any particular sun colors?